Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations on making it through to this highlight of Harrogate. Because just as Christmas comes near the end of the year, the most exciting part of British Potato comes as the event draws to the close. Welcome to our debate today. Maris Piper has had its day, or has it? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alex Godfrey. I'm a grower based in North Lincolnshire, and I'm the chair of GB Potatoes and also the chair of this debate today. A couple of points of housekeeping before we start. Please, could you make sure your phones are off or on silent? We're not expecting any fire alarms, any fire tests today. So if the fire alarm goes off, please do follow in a swift and orderly fashion back out of the door you came in and leave the building to the door on the right. If you need the toilet, you should have worked out where they are by now, but somewhere across the way. And finally, if you would like basis or Neuroso points for attending the debate today, please speak to Ellis on your way out and he'll be able to register those for you. So, we have two fantastic debaters here today. I'm really looking forward to hearing from both of them. Arguing that Maris Piper has had its day, we have Katy Pook, who's the head of brand and marketing manager at Greenvale. Katy has spent the last decade in marketing within the fast-moving consumer goods sector, learning what makes consumers tick. As Greenvale's brand and marketing manager, she's passionate about bringing a fresh perspective to the big industry challenges. And arguing that it hasn't, or has it, we have Gordon Stark, director of Tegro. Hailing from his family farm in the Sidlaw Hills just outside Dundee, Gordon started his potato career working on local farms before taking up the position of fieldsman at Greenvale from their Burrelton office. Though working mainly within the seed sector, he progressed to become procurement manager at Greenvale before setting up his own potato marketing business, Tegro. So I will invite shortly Katy to speak in favour of the motion that Maris Piper has had its day. Then Gordon will put the opposing view. And after that, I will open the floor to questions to either of our headline debaters here today. So I would encourage you, please, to think of your questions, save them up and stick your hand up as soon as we get to that stage, because we will have a fascinating debate. And at the end, we will take a vote and this audience will make a decision. Maris Piper has had its day, or has it? Over to you, Katy.
Is that working? So thank you, Alex, for the introduction. I really hope you haven't oversold this. So I'm going to be explaining why I believe that Maris Piper has indeed had its day. And whilst I appreciate that it has a place in all markets for potatoes, I will primarily be referencing the retail sector, as that is where the end consumer has the most influence. So it's a contentious title, probably a little emotional for some. But whether you're anti-Maris or pro-Piper, it's a really important part of the conversation. And every part of the supply chain has the right and the responsibility to be part of. So I'm going to start with a little bit of historical context. Maris Piper was developed in 1966, specifically to be a variety resistant to the most common strain of PCN. It would be fair to say, though, that the food and agriculture industries looked a little bit different back in the late 60s. The potato sector was dominated by tens of thousands of smaller multi-crop farms, growing produce for more local supply chains, as well as the earliest versions of the supermarkets. But that was quite a far cry from the national distribution networks that we have today. Accounting for almost 60% of main crop growing area, Majestic dominated the market, but its vulnerability to pest and disease, as well as the rise of newer varieties with better uniformity, more desirable properties, and higher yields led it to be replaced. Does that sound a little bit familiar? So, having adopted Maris Piper as a solution for the problem that PCN posed, its consistency and yield soon led it to become popular with growers. Its reliability made it an appealing choice for the whole supply chain, and its versatility meant that demand from fresh chipping, French fries, and crisping. As popularity grew, so did understanding and confidence in the variety, and Majestic was ousted. In that, consumers also got to understand the versatility of Piper, with all-rounder signifying multi-use and convenience. It was also popular in taste and texture, and since it was consistently stocked, it became a familiar name, a habitual purchase in many households, cementing its position with the public. Today, families might have 2 or 3 generations of home cooks recommending the variety. The internet and cookbooks are absolutely flooded with recommendations, and now even ChatGPT is recommending it as a popular UK all-rounder. It's become a British icon, ultimately a brand in its own right. And as a brand, it stands for as a mark of trust and of consumer expectation. But like all good things that might have been considered back then, the times have changed. And just like toilet carpet and the yellow pages, Maris Piper really isn't fit for purpose today. So the sector's changed. We are more industrialised with bigger, more expensive machines, increased pest and disease pressure, fewer options for chemistry, and more volatile and extreme weather events, with greater competition for seed, all whilst complying with increased levels of regulatory and environmental schemes and tighter size and quality specifications. So it's not really a surprise that the growing area of potatoes stands at around 1/3 of the land used in 1966, with fewer, larger growers growing more varieties with more complexity. And in the context of that decline, the growing area of Maris Piper in GB has also fallen pretty much every year from the early 2000s. According to HDB data, in 2007, it stood at around 20% of the growing area, as low as 12% in 2020. We actually think it's just over 10% today. Not only that, but looking at the share of volume in retailers in the last 5 years, the volume share has dropped from 19.5% in 2021 to 16.4% in 2025. Now, I'm not arguing that volume isn't hugely significant, but it is a continuing directional trend. So what's the issue? The variety is almost 60 years old. It's not going to change. But the environment and the supply chain have changed. And it's actually really ill-equipped. It's said today that if Maris Piper was developed as a variety, it wouldn't make it to national listing. In a landscape where land is declining, becoming valuable and challenging to grow on, maximising yield is key. Pressure to improve environmental performance means a spotlight shone on agriculture. New varieties will hold the key to reducing the overall impact through improved yields and lesser requirement for chemistry. PCN is also present in around half of potato growing land, so it's critical that we prioritise varieties that are tolerant, but also help us manage the problem, maintaining available land for future production. And why, facing into a water crisis, would we continue to grow a variety that is just so thirsty? Not only that, but Maris Piper is susceptible to internal defects, scab, blight, slugs, and bruising, which not only impacts the packing facilities, but the end consumer too. Now, sometimes Maris Piper is excellent, but sometimes is key there. And at certain times of the year, maintaining supply at all costs means that product on the shelves isn't nearly at its best. And the drop in quality is actually quite damaging to consumer perception, not just for Maris Piper, but for the whole potato category too. And this is where the problem lies. Consumer reviews online to show them talking about poor quality, bruising, and too much waste. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like from a packer perspective in comparison to all other potatoes. Here's a graph that shows the percentage of complaints attributed to Maris piper versus all other potatoes that we pack. The bottom line across there is the last 5 years of Maris piper complaints, and then you've got all other varieties at the top. Now, most of the year, the percentage of complaint numbers are actually in line with the volume share. However, in the months of March to July, the complaint share spikes, typically to around 40% of complaints, but it has been as high as 54%. The problem with trying to force Maris piper into packs all year round is that compromising on quality leads to erosion of trust and ultimately a reduction in demand. To reduce the impact on some consumers, there are retailers that rely on imports throughout those summer months. M&S fairly heavily, but also retailers such as Tesco and Aldi will import for a couple of weeks of the year. You'll see here at the end of the last year here, Greenvale actually saw a reduction in Maris piper complaints. That's not actually anything to do with Maris piper, it's just that we've been running some customer trials to remove piper out of some of those packs. And looking outside the sales data and the complaints, we've actually been talking to consumers directly. And whilst the familiarity of the Maris piper name provides the comfort for consumers that describe Maris piper as the perfect all-rounder, it's not actually that critical. 93% of consumers that buy Maris piper also buy other potatoes. Most of them would simply just pick up another pack. Around 3% of them said they wouldn't buy potatoes anymore. And the fact is, it's already changing. Retailers are already talking to us about how they can decrease their reliance on older named varieties, with a focus on using Maris piper when it's at its best. There are already a few solutions being trialled in the marketplace. There's very likely going to be a shift from variety-led marketing to usage-led messaging, and that will be driven by attributes for different varieties, meaning that they perform better for the grower, packer, retailer, and consumer. I think it's pretty unlikely that Maris piper will disappear completely, but without the volume demand, it will be the growers that can deliver the best quality that will continue to benefit from the value. The rest will need to diversify. So we're currently stuck in a position where this kind of false demand is driven by the retailers due to variety-led packs and lack of clear consumer communication. Continued complaints, deductions, and erosion of trust will ultimately lead to category decline. However, by shifting the expertise back into the industry, we'll be able to provide products that deliver security of supply, consistent quality, and reconnect shoppers with where their food comes from, building trust. And that provides an opportunity for not only varietal innovation, but also for sustainable growth. In summary, Maris piper has indeed already had its day. And we're already facing the transition away from the variety. It doesn't mean the end of piper completely, but it will mean significant volume reductions and an increased pressure on quality to maintain that value benefit. As an industry, we understand the challenges posed by climate and pests such as PCN, the growing conditions and impacts to yields, but consumers do not. It's important that we support the transition of consumers away from Maris piper in a way that retains the category value, but brings the expertise back into the sector. Change is needed to continue to meet potato demand in this country. And to do this, it is vital that we continue the conversation, and we need the support of all industry voices to do this. Thank you.
a very clearly articulated case that Maris Piper has had its day. But there is another point of view. Gordon has it.
Hello. I'm sorry about my voice. I seem to have picked up a bug last night in Wetherspoons. I would say well done for your presentation there, but I wasn't really listening, to be honest with you. So we have here, where's the clicker? This is the great Maris Piper on the left. The one on the right, well, it'll be dead long before Maris Piper is, I can guarantee you that. This chap here is called Max Coleman. He put an article in the Sunday Post 7 years ago saying that Maris Piper will be dead within 20 years. Well, I think he's got more chance of being dead than Maris Piper. It's 7 years in, and it's still by far the most prevalent variety on the go. As Katy kindly said, it was bred in it was actually bred in 1956, named in 1964, and brought to market in 1966. At least something good happened in 1966. The varieties back then, as we know, were Kerr's Pink, Majestic, Arran Banner, Pentland Crown. Maris Piper has seen off all of these varieties. It's seen off Cara. It's seen off lots of different varieties in lots of different markets. It's navigated its way through the market from 1966, as Katy said, through the chipping market and the packing market. It was even grown as a salad at one time. It was bred for PCN resistance, as we know, specifically Rostockiensis. Now, there has been an increase in pallida over the years, particularly in England, but it's now in Scotland. As the development of new varieties progresses, pallida will be looked after. You will see an increase in Rostockiensis again. That will happen. And Piper is actually part of that armoury, believe it or not. It is a disease-resistant variety. Well, if it's a consistency you're after, you can't have anything more consistent than a variety that's been with us for over 60 years. Back in a few good stats here. I mean, it was actually quite easy to do this, and I actually thought the first half of your talk was supporting me with Piper because there's so many good things about it. Back in 1980, 24% of all the potatoes in the UK were Maris Piper. At that time, there were 56 million people living in the UK, and we were quite easily consuming a 6 million tonne crop. So that was 1.5 million tonnes of Maris Piper people were eating back then. Now it has dropped down to 16%. It's not doing very well at 16. But, you know, I think it might be 12 now. But that's still a lot of tonnes. That's anywhere between 500 to 700,000 tonnes of potatoes. So over the last 60 years, we have consumed 60 million tonnes of Maris Piper, approximately. There's 1 tonne for every adult in the UK right now. Does it still have its place in the market? Piper is its own market. It's different. It's not like any other variety. It's no wonder it's been the bane of breeders' lives over the years. They look at Piper. It's cheap to plant. You can get any market for it. It's never had a penny of royalties paid for it. Some of the seed rate is so low on it by comparison to the high seed costs that you have to pay in other varieties. I do feel sorry for the breeders because they're up against something that is an immovable object, and it hasn't. Granted, it hasn't been good for the breeding houses. But it's consistency you're after, and that's what it brings. You Google Maris Piper, you come up with this. All these recipes, roast potatoes, Hasselbacks. There's so much on Maris Piper. Delia Smith, Jamie Oliver, Harry Bikers, Nigel L. Lawson, they all reference Piper. You ask any member of the public to name a variety, they will tell you Piper. They might say Whites, or they might say Babies. The only other one they'll probably say is King Edward, or Rooster. And hats off to Rooster. It's the only variety out there that has actually even touched Maris Piper as far as being a variety. And that's down to a massive marketing campaign by Albert Bartlett. No one else has even come close to marketing a variety like Piper. Piper markets itself. So I'm needing a bit of interaction here. This is Piper. It can be difficult to grow. It can look a bit dull. It takes a bit of scab. What's this one? Anyone? No? Who? Blight. Be light. Come on in. Slugs. And pests. Oh, yeah. Not far wrong. Actually, they can have some serious internal issues. When you grow Piper in England, it looks like this. Okay, pretty good stuff. That's in the ground. When we grow in Scotland, it looks like that. It's not comparable, really, is it? By the time you guys have got it in the box, it looks like this. Still looks not too bad, but you've hammered the hell out of it. Whereas in Scotland, it's a bit shabby, it's a bit dull, but it still does a job. I'm not blaming the English growers for finding it difficult to grow Maris Piper. It's genuinely down to climate change. It's because it's becoming more difficult to grow. It's not the variety's fault. You're getting more extreme weather, which puts more stress on the crop and needs lots of water. So it is down to climate change. And that's why Scotland are actually, you see a lot more Piper getting grown in Scotland. So it's great for us that you guys can't grow it anymore. Don't keep growing it if you can't grow it. Don't get ambition and ability mixed up, lads and lassies. But Scotland might look this in 50 years' time. We don't know. We really don't know. So that is against my argument. This is the thing that might stop Piper, is climate change. There are fewer chemicals, good chemicals around. Not that I'm suggesting that crystal meth should be used, but DDT's wearing off, Temic's wearing off. There are a lot more beasties in the ground and things in the ground that can actually attack Piper, but not just Piper, other varieties as well. It's a thoroughbred Piper. Oh, back. It's a thoroughbred. It's a really tremendous variety at performing if you throw a lot at it. You get the reward in Piper if you do the right thing. If you were to take a punt on any crop to grow on the open market and have a flyer at it, it would be pre-packed Piper, for especially storing pre-packed Piper. It will always find a home. And if it doesn't find a home in the pre-pack, it's got a B, it's got a C road, it's got a D road. There are lots of different places that you can put Piper within the market, and there's lots of safety nets. Traditional farming is fast becoming, in my mind, the way to grow potatoes, but in particular Piper. If you keep your land in good heart, there's no substitute for farmyard manure. Hungry land does not like growing Maris Piper. If it's got a deficiency, the likelihood is you'll get an internal in it, or you might get some bruising. But, don't grow it on the wrong land and don't grow it on hungry land. The crop utilisation of Piper, everyone talks about carbon footprint. This is what a Piper crop looks like when it's finished. You've taken everything out of it. You've taken the minus 45s out of it, the outgrades. The packers use all the pick off in their peeling plants. I'm sorry, there's nothing more carbon efficient than a crop that has full utilisation. And Piper has that. The other thing about the yield as well is the dry matter yield is actually quite high. Okay, the overall yield of it's not, but the dry matter yield is what really matters. We don't want water. So they think it might be all over for Piper. Well, maybe for England it is. You can take my voice, but you will never take my Piper. Piper is here to stay, I think. The only thing that will stop Piper is this, climate change. But I'm going to let you all in a little secret here. Unfortunately for most of you in this room, Piper will outlive all of you. Piper has certainly not had its day. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. A very colourful rebuttal to the proposal that Maris Piper has had its day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd really like to open up the debate to the floor, encourage questions and comments on what you've heard from both Katy and Gordon. Please do raise your hand if you've got something you would like to contribute to the debate. Everybody in this room must have a view, surely. Maris Piper is so well known to us all. We feel comfortable with it. Or have we moved beyond it? Is it a tasty treat, or is it a dull dependency that we need to move on from? Double down, grow more, keep growing, or terminate this tuber? Come on, somebody must have a view. In the meantime, I'm going to start by asking Katy a question. Katy, what other varieties are there out there that can do what Maris Piper does?
Well, I think the answer is there's multiple different varieties out there in the market that can do what Maris Piper does, but I think it's actually quite irresponsible to look at replacing one single variety with another single variety. And if you look at the varieties that are out there, I think there's actually about 10 that we looked at with very similar attributes. And the growing area of those, when we looked at it compared to Piper, was still just under what it was in 2020. So, correct.
So to turn the question round, Gordon, what is it that Maris Piper can do that other varieties can't?
It just opens your. Can you hear me on that or not? It just opens your options up to several different markets. And if there's any variety that anyone says they need growing, if you can do it, it's Piper. If you can grow Piper well, you will find a market. Every single sector takes it, from the peeling sector, even fries. In actual fact, the best chip you'll eat is a Piper off the field. There's so many good attributes to the variety. I'm not saying it's the future, but there's nothing will ever replace Piper.
And does that apply all year round? Katy had some figures showing that it's difficult to store through to spring.
It can be difficult, but there's lots of different varieties that are difficult. And if you can't make a job of it and store it correctly, well, don't do it. Nobody's forcing you to. But if you can, you'll get a return on it.
Okay. We've got a question in the middle over here, and then we'll go to the back afterwards. Sorry, just if I could just pause you from there's a microphone on the way. Thank you.
Do you think we should premiumise it and make it a Scottish, don't store it, instead of trying to beat the heck out of it and do it all year long, just say sometimes it's not good enough to do it then?
Perhaps that's a good question, but there's always demand for it.
Yeah,
that's
should we always?
That's the problem.
It's like there's always demand for a British strawberry, but sometimes they're not good enough to eat, are they? It's quality over quality, quality over time. I think.
I think the thing is does the quality really deteriorate? I think it's about Scots. I said it earlier. Scottish Piper doesn't look as good as English Piper, but actually,
but it performs. Yeah,
performs. It's more about education, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question from David Cook.
Yeah, Dave Cook, James Hutton. I think you said it's good for resistance. So this is targeted at Gordon. I mean, be light, but it's be light on blight resistance, I'm afraid. And if we move towards, other ways of managing blight and integrating fungicides and varietal resistance, then that's not going to happen with Piper.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to respond?
You can say that for every variety. The market, Mr. Coleman, who was up there, the second slide, he doesn't understand the market. He told us that Piper wouldn't be around in 20 years. Chemistry is pretty good on blight. I'm not saying that blight may not be a controlling factor in years to come, but we've combated it pretty damn well for the last 150 years.
Thank you. We have a question. I thought you had your hand up earlier. Was that? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, come up with a question anyway.
There we go. Yeah. One point I've just noticed really is the part of the argument from yourself was talking very much about the retail sector, where I think Gordon's really captured the whole piece around Maris Piper and how it performs in all sectors of the market. So, like you said, the peeling, the processing, and the shipping trade. So, I think there's a little bit more to it than just the retail focus point.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it obviously goes beyond retail. I think at the moment there is a premium for Maris Piper going directly into retail. And my point is that value will disappear as retailers look to move away from that, which then leaves you with the secondary markets, which is reducing anyway. I think there are multiple other varieties that work across the different sectors, and it will be for the growers and their expertise to decide what grows better for their land and what they get the maximum yield out of.
Thank you. We've got a question here, but if there are any processors or processing growers in the room who wish to have a thought on that as well, we'll be interested to hear that later, but we'll come here first.
I'm getting the best return per hectare for my Piper crop. They are very difficult to grow, but my customers want them. My customers want Piper, and they'll give me a much better return per hectare for them. So I haven't found anything else that will fit that bill.
I think my answer to that would be for now.
Can I answer?
False demand. Yeah.
I think that you've made a very good point there. For the good growers who can grow it, there's nothing beats it. That's what the market wants. And don't get ambition and ability mixed up here. If you can't grow it, don't grow it.
That point is very clearly made. Thank you, Gordon. Mark Salem.
Yeah, this isn't a single question. It's going to be multifaceted, but we already have the ability, and it goes back to what David mentioned. We have the ability to have a Piper that has had things added to it. We have Piper Plus, which has been around for nearly 20 years. It's just the reception in the market. We've moved from GM through to GE, through to precision breeding. We can have Maris Piper that isn't bruise resistant. It still shows damage, but it develops no colour on bruising. So your black spot is a customer complaint, but it's not a black spot, which is what most of those complaints were in March and April. It's blight resistant with fairly stable 3R genes in there to protect it. You can down-regulate sucrose synthetase and make it not sweeten. So there it can be stored. We, having talked to the originator, we can probably do a fairly good job on preventing invasion by streptomyces in its reaction. So we can make it not scab-free, but less scab. What else do you want to add to it? And the highest documented dry matter yield, this goes back to what was said, on the agreeing side, was Maris Piper can still produce the biggest dry matter yields. My same effect of moving to Katy side is the level of waste is unsustainable. And so our market has moved since 1970s through to an increasingly stringent requirement. And that's where Piper will struggle. But I'm fully with two people saying there is a niche market, but it might not be an all year round, and it might not be an English versus Scotland. There will be people that want it. Right. So I would like Jamie's going to.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, Jamie, you've got
very quickly. At the end of the 19th century, we wanted to breed horses which were faster, and someone invented the motor car.
I was going to say, I think Mark is arguing we bypass this debate so we can continue to have Piper, but it's something different to the Piper we know, essentially. So I'm not sure which side of the debate that's an argument on. So, but it's good input. Thank you very much. We have a question near the back, Graham.
Thank you, Alex. Firstly, excellent presentation, both of you. Thank you very much. When we came up with this idea for this discussion, I was probably in the camp of we need to look at something different. Excuse me. Having been born, the other good thing that came out in 1966 was me. So you were wrong on that one, Gordon. However, I'm now sort of flip-flopping between it because I do our family shopping. So every fortnight I go to a well-known supermarket and I buy our food for the fortnight. And that includes buying potatoes because I haven't got access to them like I used to have. In the last, I think it's 2.5 months, I will have been 5 times. Each time I bought a packet of white potatoes, and in those 5 times of shopping, it's been 5 different varieties. And I only knew 3 of those varieties. So I bring them home and I cook them and it went wrong. I made rubbish mash, which is not like me, I'm good at that. Whereas I could go in and buy Piper because I know it, I know how to cook it, I know it's going to be the same every time. So I'm starting to just flip-flop around. So my point being that we're actually, if we want it to change, we have to go back to consumer awareness. We have to stop giving them potatoes that they've never had before, or that they buy every third time they go shopping. It cooks differently, it tastes differently, it does a different job. Until we do that, you're not really going to get rid of the pipers, the King Edwards, the roosters.
Thank you, Graham. It won't be the first time you've heard that comment, I'm sure, Katie. What is Greenvale already doing to engage with the end consumer?
So that's a conversation that we're having with the retailers at the moment, is that we do actually a really bad job of marketing our products in this country. We have Maris Piper, King Edwards, and then everything else, which goes into whites. The conversation that we're having is mostly around usage led. So it's identifying different attributes, tasting, texture, for each variety, and then explaining to the consumer how to use that product. Now, they buy Maris Piper because it's familiar, and to them it says it can do everything. So why not just bypass the variety name and tell them what it does, signpost them to the correct product for what they actually want to use it for? And that's the conversations that we're having at the moment. We've done some really successful trials within a couple of different retailers.
Thank you. Any further questions that you want to, or comments, arguments that you want to put to the panel before we move to a vote, which we will do shortly? No, I'm seeing nothing. So yes, I will save you briefly. We have one final input.
About growing Piper is its sustainability and its risk, because as a variety, because of the multiple uses. And I challenge Mark Stallam's comment about wastage. The wastage of Piper is usable. We make mash out of it. We make a whole range of products out of it. So from a grower perspective, it is actually still a sustainable variety. And there is a risk of growing it in England, and Gordon's right. Unfortunately, the risk of growing Piper in England for pre-pack is probably too high. We're expecting too much of growers. But growing it in the north of the country, providing you can control the dry matter, it is a sustainable variety because of its multiple uses. And therefore it will remain a big part of growing potatoes in the north of the UK.
Thank you. Yeah, what I'm hearing is we may get two different answers depending from whereabouts in the country you come from for this debate. I'm going to give each of Katie and Gordon an opportunity to make a final closing remark before we put this to a vote. Katie.
I think I'd just like to remind you that the debate is called Has It Had Its Day? So I'm not actually saying that Maris Piper will be cancelled and that we won't be growing Piper anymore. But has it had its day? Yeah, probably a couple of decades ago.
Thank you. And Gordon.
No.
Well, you can't say he's not succinct, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so the moment has come to put this to the vote. I'm going to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, for a show of hands. So for those who believe Maris Piper has had its day, please raise your hand. Oh, we have a fairly good showing. One hand each, please. And for those who believe it has not, please raise your hand. Oh, it is very, very close indeed. I believe those who believe it has had its day may just have the edge, but it is narrow, and I don't doubt the debate will rumble on. But congratulations on this occasion today, Katie. I think you can claim the victory. Sorry. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending today. Thank you for your contributions. I think it's been a fantastic debate. I have really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. Enjoy the rest of the show. A safe journey home. Before you do, though, please make sure you have noted the industry confidence survey that was launched here yesterday. It's really important that we get as many responses as possible to this survey, because that will make sure that we're giving the right messages when we're speaking to government and other stakeholders. And it will also help us build a picture of the area of potatoes and the historic tonnages of potatoes that we have had in the country to fill some of the gaps in data that we've had recently. So please take a note of that QR code and get filling in those surveys. Thank you very much.